Welcome back. All right, so continuing to look at teams that were eliminated in the first round of the playoffs this year. Minnesota, as I swap conferences, back and forth in this playlist. And for Minnesota, it the optimism should be there. And I think for most Minnesota fans, I think it is. Obviously, there's the dead cap money issue with the Parise and Suter buyouts that has to be addressed. So that's why we're going to hear a lot of rumors on who might get dealt this summer. The balancing act for Bill Guerin is simple. You want to make sure the team's under the cap, obviously. You also want to make sure they stay competitive. For Kirill Kaprizov, he clearly is in his prime right now. You want to strike while the iron's hot. So it's about building a team that is competitive and can finally get over the hump. And of course, for Minnesota fans, whether it's the T-Wolves, whether it's the Twins, whether it really, it doesn't matter which sport you look at, the Vikings and the Wild, it's kind of been tough. So for this team this year, they went 53, 22, and 7. Absolutely fantastic record. One of the top teams in the league through a lot of the season. Now, personally, I thought there were some issues here and there, but they were winning despite some of the issues that were there. So their April record also told you they should be in for a good playoffs. They were 12-2-2 in the going into the playoffs in the month of April, but they ran into St. Louis. They lost in 6 games against the Blues. There's no shame in losing to the Blues. The Blues are a very good playoff veteran-laden team, but for Minnesota, they're going to have to figure this out. So this offseason is a very key offseason for Bill Guerin and for the franchise. Might be one of the more important off seasons in the franchise's history because you've now got that bona fide superstar. You've got a pretty decent top 4 on the blue line, and you've got a pretty good top 6 right up front. And so it's a matter of figuring out what you're going to do with your goaltending, what you're going to do to make this team better. And again, how you're going to be able to do it while staying under the cap. So we will likely see some cap gymnastics from the Minnesota Wild this summer. It'll be interesting to see how it goes. So their playoff scoring leaders, well, Kaprizov really was quite the show all by himself there. 7 goals and 1 assist in 6 games. That's not bad. Eriksson Ek, 3 goals, 2 assists. Hartman only had the 5 assists, so they held him off the score sheet in the goals, from the goals perspective. Zuccarello just had the 1 goal to go with 3 assists. And Brodin had 1 goal and 2 assists. So one thing that we saw with Minnesota, which might have been suspected going into that series, if you shut down Kaprizov, there isn't that much else there to hurt you offensively from the Minnesota Wild. There's heart and soul guys like Foligno, and Foligno had a very good regular season, but is he a goal scorer that brings you over the top? No. From a goal scoring perspective, he's more of the complementary type, and they really need more of the top end players when it comes to the goal scoring. Fiala being kept off the score sheet in terms of goals absolutely affected the outcome of that series too. Goaltending for the playoffs, Fleury was 2-3 with a .906 save percentage. For the final game of the series, they did go with Talbot. So he loses that game, so he's 0-1 with an .846 save percentage. Talbot had an excellent first half of the season, not as great in the second half, and ends up losing the starting job to Marc-Andre Fleury. Although, as was said, Marc-Andre Fleury has cup rings, so they were looking at that and saying he's got a lot of experience. But yeah, what do you do with the goaltending going forward? If the goaltending was part of the problem that led to the loss against St. Louis, how do you fix that? If it wasn't the goaltending, that would mean you have to look at the blue line and all that other fun stuff. The regular season was a season of records. Kaprizov, 47 goals, new team high, 61 assists, 108 points. Team highs across the board. Kevin Fiala, 33 goals, 52 assists, 85 points. Honestly, we're going to probably hear a lot of rumors about Fiala and where he might be going. The New Jersey ones are out there. If Fiala actually does become available on the market, and well known that he would be on the market, I would expect a lot of GMs to be calling. Fiala really stepped up this year and seemed to come into his own. Zuccarello, 24 goals, 55 assists, 79 points. Kind of a career year for him as well. Hartman, 34 goals, 31 assists, 65 points. I don't know if Hartman reaches 34 goals again next year, but he should at the very least be a 25 goal scorer. Depending on where he ends up. Like maybe the lines get changed up next year. You can never tell. Eriksson Ek, 26 goals, 23 assists, 49 points. Another good season for Eriksson Ek, who's showing that he is, a legit goal scorer in the NHL year over year. And so, yeah, we'll see. The regular season goaltending, sort of Kakinen on the board because now he's in San Jose. Talbot was 32, 12, and 4, 9-11 save percentage. Fleury, in his time in Minnesota, was 9-2 with a 9-10 save percentage. So they were winning with Fleury. Another reason to go with him going to the playoffs. And it just ends up running into the St. Louis Blues, who, when it was Husso, it looked like they might be able to beat him. But then Binnington went in, and he wasn't nervous. So you're pending UFAs for the Minnesota Wild, and keep in mind they don't have a lot of cap space to keep everybody. But Delorier, I thought he fit in pretty well with Minnesota after the trade. I think Delorier is a decent veteran to have around. He can drop his gloves. He can also take a regular shift, and he has at times gone on like weird point and goal streaks that don't usually last that long, but he has them, so they're there. I would not be surprised to see Minnesota figure out a way to keep him. Bukestad probably gone. Jordy Ben's journeyman, probably ends up moving on to another team. And Marc-Andre Fleury, it's really up to him. I do think that if Minnesota can figure out a way to bring him back, I think they will. I don't know that Fleury is necessarily the same goaltender right now that he was, say, in 2018 with Vegas, but he's still pretty good. And so for Minnesota, it's important to have that. And of course, the question becomes one of, so let's say you're saying, all right, well, we can move on from Fleury. You need to have a replacement for him. And so either you're going to look in the AHL or you're going to use the free agent market and see if there's an upgrade. And if there isn't an upgrade there, maybe you bring him back. One thing, Edmonton fans were kind of ticked when Mike Smith was returning to Edmonton, but Ken Holland said, the market's what the market is, and so they brought him back. And it worked out all right for the Oilers in the end, so we'll see what they do in Minnesota. RFAs, again, the speculation, Kevin Fiala, he is deserving of a raise. Probably a pretty significant one. And pretty good term. He should be able to get both. So him being an RFA is going to lead to speculation after speculation until he probably gets dealt. Dewar, I thought decent bottom six forward, not going to get a huge raise. Middleton fit in pretty well in Minnesota. I honestly thought he had a better run in Minnesota after the trade than he did in San Jose beforehand. Middleton, a little more offense, I thought, in his time in Minnesota too. In his game anyways than what we saw in San Jose. Different systems, different team, and obviously different outlook. But I thought Middleton fit in pretty well. We'll see if they keep him around. They definitely seem to understand that they needed that edge, that physicality in their lineup. And they had that. That's not what beat them. It just, St. Louis was pretty darn good. So if we look at their record over the last 10 years in the playoffs, 2013, they lost in the first round against Chicago in 5. 2014, they lost against the Chicago Blackhawks in 6. 2015, they got swept by the Chicago Blackhawks again in round 2. So that's 3 years in a row that Chicago takes them out. 2016, they lost in the first round. This time it's Dallas that does it. 6 games there. 2017, they lost in the first round against the St. Louis Blues in 5. 2018, they lost against Winnipeg in 5 in the first round. No playoffs for Minnesota in 2019. 2020, they lost the qualifying round against Vancouver, 3-1. 2021, they lost the first round against Vegas, 4-3. And this year, of course, as already mentioned, St. Louis in 6. So they've not got out of the first round since 2015. They haven't got out of the second round since 2003. And so that's a problem. That's something they're going to be looking to try to fix this upcoming season. But again, I don't think they're that far off. I just wonder how this is going to work with so much dead cap this year, and how you're going to keep the team competitive in a pretty tough Central Division where you think Winnipeg's got to bounce back, and there's other teams who are below the playoff line that could be above it this coming season. And so it might be tough for Minnesota. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Can Minnesota have another season like the one we just saw? And how do they get over the hump? What is that missing piece? For me personally, I thought that St. Louis kind of wore them down. Binnington came in and he was red hot. And that whether it's the blue line, whether it's the goaltending, I thought that there were goals here and there that I thought maybe should have been saved that weren't. And then defensively, I thought they were overwhelmed at points by St. Louis too. But Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.